Happy last 6 minutes of Wednesday, March 22nd. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center semi-overnighter. Probably going to be more like a Midnight Express tonight because I was running a little bit late, and I still have to watch Picard Season 3, Episode 6 tonight. I watched like the first 10 minutes of it, and then I had to go get the setup and everything. So, oops, let me make sure that the mic is working. Hold on. Testing. All right, we'll know that one works. Oh, that sucks. I could not get these to go. So I'll have to play with those tomorrow. But right now, we're just going to get the show going, and I'll play with my technical difficulties tomorrow. I'm not muted. It's just the fact that the StreamYard is not recognizing the Razer, the cat earphone things, and it does it when it wants to. But it is, yeah. So something's wrong. Something's wrong with my integrated driver that goes with my computer and the recognition from StreamYard. So the other days, these last couple of days, these have been working fine, and I prefer the sound that comes from here. But something with StreamYards does not consistently recognize your input devices sometimes, because I tried it with a different streaming service, even though I wasn't online, and it was able to recognize it right away. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and just restart. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, semi-overnighter. This is more like a Midnight Express tonight because it's going to be a little bit shorter because I got to watch Picard Season 3, Episode 6 right after this. And so we're just going to take some questions here. And like I said, we are not muted. It's just the program that we use to stream on is not recognizing the headset and the microphone. So that sucks too, because this microphone is cool. Don't get me wrong. I paid a lot of money for this microphone, and it works fine. It's the same microphones we use at the center when we're broadcasting from there. But when I was playing around with the Razer Kitten ones, it was just, I love the sound quality a lot more than I do this one. So, oh well. All right, guys, let's see. Everybody tell me I'm muted. But I'm not muted. William Burns, how you doing, Larry? All right, I saw Howard the Duck. Depends on what you mean by resolution. I think the most sure way we're going to get a resolution to that storyline right now that really cannot be interfered with if they decide to go this route would be the comic book or the graphic novel, because it's not it's not something that's really going to interfere with what what anybody's doing on screen. Jim Lee's the head of DC for the most part. He has a decent relation with Zack Snyder. I mean, I don't see James Gunn having any issue with. I mean, comic book stories are not going to be necessarily consistent with what he's doing, and vice versa. I mean, there may be some inspiration that he uses, like he's been using, like tying everything together, like with Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Creature Commandos. But as far as like actually doing a storyline, it would just like be any other storyline that you would have in the comic book. So. I've seen panels and stuff that Jim Lee is drawing. I think they're for the poster that he's going to be doing for AFSAP. But like I said, I don't see there's anything stopping them from just going ahead and making a 12-issue miniseries, and just wrapping it up that way. So let's see. Let's go down here. All right, come on. Wow, what is wrong with this tonight? All right, William, do you think we're making the second Barry the Yellow Flash? He's always wearing yellow in the trailer, and they always change a little from the source material. I think that other Flash is going to end up becoming the Dark Flash. That's my theory, is that he's going to see, what Barry's trying to fix, and there's something that he's fixing that might undo his reality. So he's going to try to protect his reality. So I think the other Flash that you see might end up becoming the villain, or some other Barry, down the line. I wish the Black Figs from the Flash movie had more justice. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Don't forget, William, Howard the Duck was in the MCU before Blade. No, there was no MCU. That horrific film that was Howard the Duck was just a comic book movie. It was it was no MCU. MCU is 2008 and beyond. Do not curse the MCU with that dreadful trash. Ugh. DC would be insane not to do a Zack Snyder Justice League comic book, but I think the company is very ideological and people like Snyder don't fit. But I don't think. See, the problem is Warner Brothers Studios, and the film division, they don't have, their paths don't overlap to the point where I don't think David Zaslav is going to care what's going on in the comics. All right. I think James Gunn may, but it's not, he gets inspirations from the comics. I don't think there's storylines that are going on in comics now that are going to happen regardless of whether he wants them to or not. He's not in charge of DC Comics. He's only in charge of DC Films. So if somebody in DC Films wants to do an adaptation of that, there's nothing, any of these guys are probably going to do about it. Zaslav's not going to care. And Gunn, that's not his jurisdiction. So I don't see anybody stopping it if they wanted to do it. And the only person that would need to make that decision at that point would be Jim Lee and Zack Snyder. What if they make a Dark Flash, basically Yellow Flash? Well, I haven't seen a figure for Yellow Flash. I've seen a figure for Dark Flash, so I'm thinking they're going with Dark Flash. Yeah, that's not that Howard the Duck, though. The Howard the Duck that you saw in Guardians of the Galaxy is not the joke one from 1986. I would love to see it get animated. I mean, be honest with you. I mean, any resolution at this point, because be honest with you, there's just been a lot of scar tissue when it comes to DC films, and you're seeing it now. You're seeing films that that are being released 5-6 years after the initial mistakes were made, still suffering because of those mistakes. I don't know when that's going to stop. Be honest with you, and to be completely honest with you, those odds that the 40% odds that I think that James Gunn has successfully pulling this stuff off within the time that he has get lower all the time when you have the kind of mess that's going on with Zachary Levi and, the hit pieces and stuff with The Rock and bringing things like that up. You know, it doesn't matter if he wasn't involved with it. He is assuming the mantle amidst all this, and some of the decisions that Warner Brothers Discovery has made haven't been that great. They haven't done themselves any favor with the way they've handled this. So right now, I would take a resolution any way I can so that I can pretty much distance myself from a lot of this and watch it come together and make a decision in 2 years whether I even want to be watching this stuff or not. Because to be honest with you, 2 years is a long time. There's if you want to kill momentum, just go ahead and add 24 months to anything. A great community channel that I follow, link to website on to block gritters YouTubers, that which I definitely will, since I'm tired of seeing the stupid pop-out ad. Okay. Who's a gritter? You lost me, Chappie. Sorry. Animation is cheaper and more likely you can get it in elsewhere than a big event. Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it. What they're doing being animation. Like I said, my box DVD set was, to finish telling all the storylines would be animation. Not only because it'd be cheaper, which is 100% true, but it'd be cool. If any of you guys are old enough to remember Animatrix back in 2003, they did different forms of animation to tell the story of how the Matrix came about and some of the things that are happening leading up to the last Matrix movies. And I thought it was great. And they also did the same type of thing with Blade Runner 2049 and some of the lead up animations, Google or YouTube Blade Runner Blackout. The kind of information, the animation that they did there was fun. And I would love to see it in animation. I think it would be great. He came up with the DC Bible. I don't think he had envisioned hiring James Gunn at that point. I think he was so early on in the game. I think he had a traditional plan with traditional studio heads like the ones that were in place before James Gunn got in. And I think that once I think it may have been even Howlin' Horn that recommended James Gunn to at least try that out. And once he heard that plan, he went with that. So a lot of the stuff that David Zaslav came in with changed once he committed to James Gunn, because he's not the kind of guy that once he commits to somebody, he likes to give that to them, and that's it. He moves everybody out of the way. In this case, I don't know if it was the best idea, simply because it was just too disruptive. And not just disruptive for the stuff that we want to be wrapped up. It's sort of disruptive to James Gunn in general. Majority of the conversation that's happening around James Gunn has nothing to do with the content James Gunn can produce. All right. Not only that, it's just too much time in between what is perceived to be basically a road to nowhere and even the remote beginnings of what he did. People say, well, two years is not a lot. Yes, it is. 2 years is a long time when you've been through 9 years of just whatever, Okay, good point. DC drama is probably more interesting than the movies. Can't wait to see what happens. It's really not. It's really not. It's actually damaging. It's actually damaging, and what it does is bit by bit, day by day, hour by hour, all these poor decisions, these poor personnel moves, and all these things that have happened, they erode the product. It's like adding weight onto something you want to fly again. Eventually, you're going to add so much weight, whatever it is never going to get off the ground. And if it does get off the ground, it's going to be a muted takeoff. And that's my concern. I mean, whatever ideas James Gunn has, I think people think you can proceed without having to address what has come before. I've heard every YouTuber, I've heard every Move On knucklehead, every one of those guys live in some imaginary fairy tale world where you can just go ahead and start over all the time. All right. This isn't Harry Potterville. This isn't a magician's show. You can blink all you want and open your eyes and think you're going to be in a new place. You look around you, the stuff that you fucked up is still there. And the stuff that Warner Brothers has messed up is still there. Until they resolve it, we're always going to have these issues with Shazam. It's always going to have these issues with Black Adam. Blue Beetle's next. Right? All you have to do, you want to blame. You can't really point the finger at anybody. It's the structure that you have yet to address that is your problem. You can switch out the names and add another name and take out another name and put one else in. Change the title of the movie. It doesn't matter. Until you address the problems and resolve what has come before, nobody is going to have faith that you can do anything else. Nobody has any reason right now to believe that anything coming in 2024, 2025 is going to be any different than what they've seen, or that they're even going to like it. And a lot of that is based on what we've been through. But we get people that say, well, we let it go, move on, move on to what and from what? All right. YouTube doesn't add brain cells to you. If you're a dummy, you're just a dummy in front of a camera sometimes. I can tell you that personally. All right. Mentioning words like reboot and doing this and DCU is dead and saying stupid shit on your blogs or your streams doesn't make you smarter, and it doesn't make the situation better. At the end of the day, you see the reality of what's happening. All right. Warner Brothers is paying the price, and the people who are busting their ass to make these movies are paying the price because nobody wants to deal with unscrewing the situation that has been screwed up. Everybody wants to just wipe the slate clean and move on. But all you're really doing is moving old furniture around. It's still the same house, still the same furniture. Until you fix that, you were going to have the same problem. And whatever you think is going to be new is going to be covered in the same shit that you didn't want to deal with from the old. So that's all Warner Brothers and DC Films is right now, is just running from their past instead of resolving it. And it's going to be the same thing over and over again, in my opinion. So, William, as a hypothetical, what would you consider erasing the Snyderverse with the upcoming stuff? I don't know, to be honest with you. It's really impossible to erase anything. Because let's say James Gunn erases it. He retcons it, does whatever he wants. Okay, so James Gunn's movies don't draw money. So he gets fired. Somebody else comes in and says, you know what? I liked what was going before. I'm bringing it back. It's a 2-second telephone call. It's an email that'll take a minute to send to change it all. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know whether I would hope that he would integrate some of the better aspects of it and move forward with those. But it's, once again, I have to pose this question once the Flash is done. Once the Flash is done and we do the math on the Flash and see what it works, then you're gonna have to go, because if you go erasing everything in the Flash, and the Flash turns out to be something that's a blockbuster and people connect with the IPs that are in it, you're stuck in a situation that you have to backtrack. Or if you go strongly with what you're about to do, that may or may not be drastically different than what people love in the Flash, you're going to get that backlash. This is why reboots and things like them are stupid. This is why I wish they would have waited until the Flash was released and stopped delaying the Flash. I wish they would have gone ahead and put out the Flash, and see, and then evaluate what where they wanted to go next. So yeah, it's a mess. I will take anything. I will take claymation. I will take. I hate all the Lego movies. Sorry, guys, I hate them. But I'll take a Lego movie if it meant finishing it that way. I'll take it in any form I can get it. William, what's your take on Levi saying he was bullied by fans and The Rock screwed Shazam too? I personally can't imagine The Rock would stop them from using Hawkeye and Shazam's post credits. I can see him using it because I don't see. He probably looked at Shazam and saw Shazam for what it was, which was not much more of an impact than what his movie was. As far as Zachary Levi being bullied by the fans, we know we have some toxic, extreme people out there that are the loud ones in the room, but I never bullied. I prefer the Snyder product, and I never bullied him. I supported the hell out of both of his movies. I think Zachary Levi should shut up at this point. He's not doing himself any favors, and he's looking like somebody that can't deal with the inevitable failures of Hollywood sometimes. Even the best actors and actresses have a bad day at the office. Tom Cruise had The Mummy. It happens. You don't see Tom Cruise shitting on everyone around him when that goes down. So, and I like Zachary Levi, but I mean, right now, every word he says, I think, just makes him look bad. You're not going to touch The Rock. All right, stop trying. The Rock's a billionaire. All right. It's just not, you're not going to, whatever people are trying to do to The Rock, it's not going to stick. Zachary Levi and Dwayne Johnson are not on the same level. It's just, they are not. So I don't see what Zachary Levi coming out with all this and adding to any of this does for him. Other directors and other producers are going to look at this and be like, this is how you handle adversity. So, yeah, and as far as bullying by the fans, but none of the fans I know. And like I said, be careful when you say the fans, because a lot of these jackasses like to group us up with the crazy people. They want to group people like me who just want to see an ending to something that they began, and they want to group us with the people who make death threats and tell people to kill themselves and all that. And their lack of common sense and the toxic fans' lack of common sense doesn't help. It doesn't help that the toxic fan is doing what he's doing, and it doesn't help that the numbnuts who wants to identify and put us all in the same basket is doing what they're doing. So I'm pretty sure that he had some fans probably come at him. But as far as bullying him, I don't know. I can't tell just from his response whether who is bullying him and who is just critiquing the film. I mean, you're in the public life, and I'm not condoning some of the things that people may have done, but at the same time, I mean, once again, every time something goes south that these guys, this previous regime pushed, every time it goes south, they want to blame it on the people that they screwed over. It's our fault that Black Adam didn't do well, even though most of us went to go see it. It's our fault that Shazam only never broke 400 million, and this one's never going to break 400 million. It's our fault, even though we're the ones that they screwed, and we still kept coming in movies. They screwed the general audience. All right, I'm sorry, Zachary Levi, and everybody who worked on Shazam, that the way things have been handled the last 5 or 6 years screwed your movie. I do regret that. Even to the point where everybody who worked on Black Adam. Sorry, I regret that the way they bungled the whole Snyder situation, instead of just leaving it alone, that those decisions screwed your movie, because that's what happened. And a lot of people on YouTube don't have the brain power to push the dial back, to where this started. You're blaming it on The Rock. That's way late in the game. You're leaving out a whole bunch of names before you even get to Dwayne Johnson's name. There's a whole bunch of executives that screwed this up long before he even had the opportunity to. But we can only, I guess we can only, our minds can only, go back 3 months, 4 months. We're talking about, the Justice Society didn't end up in Shazam. Oh my God. But we're not talking about the several executives who completely screwed all men at DC. We're one man who did more to get Superman back on the screen than all of those executives who got fired combined did. We're blaming The Rock because somebody else made a bad decision to go in a different direction from Cavill. Whose fault was that? So, yeah, we got if Zachary Levi or anybody wants to blame, to point fingers at why, the cumulative effect of his movie ended up taking a hit, then he needs to go look up Wikipedia and hit that little backwards button where it shows you who the executives were prior to the ones that are currently there now. There's your list right there. All right, aside from resolving the Snyderverse, the latest hit pieces and drama just make me believe that much more that WB have still not and still need to reconcile the mistakes. Exactly what I said. I think we're reading each other's mind. Big Rich, they gave a tease with the animation style of Teen Titans. Yeah, I heard about that. And like I said, Sock puppets. I'll take sock puppets. All I want was an ending. And like I said, I know there are some people who conduct themselves in a manner that is not appropriate, but the majority of us just wanted an ending, and we'll take it any way you can give it to us. And yeah, some of us do get defensive when some of you dipshits out there group us in with the same percentage of crazy people that are in every fandom. Star Wars, Star Trek, doesn't matter what it is. All right. You group us all in there, and that's not productive at all. I just wanted an ending. You sold me on this beginning and never followed through. So I'm the asshole? No. Teen Titans released their trailers for the series finale today. Nobody covered it. Nobody ever covered Teen Titans, and it lasted 4 years. Nobody not covering Titans didn't stop it from lasting a lot longer than it ever had any business lasting. You got to realize that Titans, if we're talking about Titans, was supposed to be for a streaming service that had no budget. It was supposed to be for DC Universe. It was not supposed to be on HBO Max. It was not supposed to be on any of these things. It was something to get you to subscribe. That and Doom Patrol. Well, the only purpose was to get you to subscribe to DC Universe. But when they combined it and merged it and with HBO Max, that's when you started getting other different things. But that's a success story. Doom Patrol, all these ones that were literally shows that were given no real budget, lasted 4 years. So and nobody covered Titans from day one. And it didn't matter. It lasted 4 years. It's gonna get more time than a lot of series I love even more. Got 4 years on a streaming service that doesn't even exist anymore. That's how impressive what Titans pulled off. The streaming service that birthed it doesn't even exist anymore. That's hilarious. I thought Gunn and Pete were making the Bible. Their slate, their Bible. He had mentioned the Bible before those two got hired, but I guess that transferred over to them. The Bible is unnecessary unless they're doing a series of movies, 3 movies a year. It wouldn't qualify as such attention to detail. And they really need to have 3 movies a year out because that's the frequency that people connect with. If I never get a Blue Beetle trailer, I'm cool. If I get one tomorrow, I'm cool. Blue Beetle is just one of those things that reminds me of where their priorities were. All right. I've gotten so many second-tier characters that are just being thrown out there, but I have to fight claw, tooth, and nail to get the main money makers out there. Why was everybody so happy for a 2-minute cameo of Cavill? Because we were starved for Superman for so long. But I got Blue Beetle. I got Peacemaker. I got Polka Dot Man. So if Blue Beetle comes out, and let's say Blue Beetle is a great movie, but it suffers the same fate as Shazam and Black Adam. If you think people don't know who Shazam and Black Adam are, about a quarter of those people are going to know who Blue Beetle is. And I'm not talking about us. I'm not talking about the Geekosphere. I'm talking about the backbone of the financial engine that is movies. All right, if you think you struggled with Black Adam and the 2 Shazam movies, here's another one that's a good chance that it's going to struggle. But the only reason we're going forward is because it's not connected to anything, and he can basically throw it into his new salad. But as far as its upfront money, I mean, this was something that was made for HBO Max, if I can remember correctly. So, you know what? They can bring Cavill back after they establish a new universe of Superman. They merge New 52 with Classic. They could. And he might do all this. And in Gunn's defense, we just don't know what he's going to do. It's just like right now, all I have is a very long gap in between when we find out and him going back and forth with people on Twitter. And And then the movies that are coming out basically having the rug pulled from under them because of the way the situations were handled. Yeah, so I like Levi's portrayal of Shazam, but he's not doing himself any favors with the pure. Yeah, and I love his portrayal of Shazam. I like Zachary. I don't have anything against Zachary Levi, but I just think what he's doing right now is petty. It's not something a 42-year-old man that's been in the business for a while does. This is something a 14-year-old does when he gets cut from the varsity team and he has to sit on the JV bench. Larry, William, you're saying Keaton in The Flash is just for nostalgia, but I beg to differ. I think he's our first time seeing a version of Batman who was grounded but is now in the metahumans. Is a metahumans. That Keaton's Batman was not grounded. I mean, even for 1989, I never felt that Keaton was grounded. And I do think it is for nostalgia, which is fine. If you do nostalgia right, it works. But what my thing was before that trailer at Super Bowl, everybody was like, the only reason people are seeing it is because Keaton's Batman. I'm like, I hope that's not true, because if you're throwing your dice in on a fossilized Batman from 3 decades ago, I don't like your chances for success. But having seen the trailer, I'm like, okay, I'm down with this. This is good. He seems to be a balancing factor. The movie is still about the Flash. But I don't think anything Tim Burton has ever done has been grounded. But it's all a different point of view, I guess. Well, Levi should shut the hell up. He really needs to stop. He's got other stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the movies. Is some of his views are not as everybody has the right to have views. He's a tax-paying American citizen, but you might want to time it a little bit differently before your movie comes out, little guy. I mean, come on. William, that's what I hate too. I feel like Levi was eluding all the Snyder fans like us, but he really meant fire gun crowd. And like I said, I'm against the fire gun crowd because of what are you firing him for? He hasn't really done anything. I can't be angry at him. He didn't hire himself. Someone else hired him and set him on this path. If you have an issue with James Gunn being head of DC Studios, you have an issue with David Zaslav. He made the decision. Tom from Midnight Edge said it was because he was posting pro-gun stuff. So I assume it was a fire gun crowd. I mean, he's an actor angling for a job, and the guy that's the head of the studios is probably will be the one to give him one. So I could understand that from a business angle. All right, Zach doing the shirt and poster designs with Jim Lee is pretty awesome, and a pretty great endorsement from within DC itself for Zach's movies. Like I said, and Jim Lee runs DC right now, DC Comics. So give me a 12-issue miniseries. Let it become a legendary thing that everybody buys and goes up in price, and let's make it historic. And then somebody can be like, you know what, just like all these other popular comic books that people have adapted, let's go ahead and adapt that. I mean, give us something somewhere, you know what I mean? Wow. All right. You can read Levi's post and see how he wants to go forward with Gunn so hard. He caught flack because he opened his dumb mouth and now the Snyder Cut and said the Snyder Cut. And yeah, he hasn't been the best as far as strategically speaking. And him wanting a future with Gunn, that's fine with me. But on the backdrop of the other stuff he said, it's not a good look, man. It's not a good look. Where's your publicist at? You could also tell that from his cringe Gucci tweet that, oh yeah, we're all Gucci, whether he's in the DCU or not. Yeah. He's 42, so he's a good-looking 42. But hey, he's 42. Bye, damn dude. I guess we're done. All right. I wish YouTube didn't get people hyped up with the Zach video with one Darkseid voice. People are gonna be let down as fuck when it turns out to be nothing more than a commercial for SnyderCon. Yeah. But it's hard for me to tell people not to get excited about things when all DC Films has done for the last 8-9 years is let them down. I wish they wouldn't. I agree with you, Slipknot, but I can understand human emotion too. Speaking of age, I turned 40. Everyone, hey, welcome to the geriatric club, buddy. I'm going to send you your diapers and your Golden Girls boxed VHS set, Matlock, and everything else. And then I'm going to give you I'll give you a list of those sounds to start listening for when you get out of bed and it's popping and shit. So there you go. That's right, William. I'm catching up to you here. I have to say, after watching Reeve as a kid, seeing Cabo, who's my age, instilled a whole new other hope in me. Yeah, and plus those guys got money. When you got money, you can look good forever. There you go. I don't even know if Integrity's here and they're speaking for you. I'd seriously be worried about Blue Beetle right now. Shazam too. Me too. If I were WBDC, thanks to the old regime, generally good DC movies are struggling through no fault of their own. Yeah. Once again, why am I getting a Blue Beetle before I get? You don't even know who the hell Blue Beetle is without the Justice League. All right. It's a cool concept, and I'm not saying don't make those movies, but you got to do things in the right order to give them the success to thrive. You put Blue Beetle out and around a Justice League type atmosphere, rising tide lifts all ships. We just keep throwing these movies out because they think, and they've been listening to some of these dummies do it like Marvel did. Nobody knew who Iron Man was. Yeah, unless you lived in a cave. Even if you're a general fan and didn't know who they were, okay, let's go with that. Okay, no one knew who Iron Man was, right? Didn't matter. If you're running Marvel Comics and you have faith in your story and your plan, you're going to do what you're going to do because you believe in what you're doing. DC had a huge advantage because everybody knew who those characters were. Marvel did what they did because there was no one else to go with, by the way. Like I keep explaining, because of Marvel's near bankrupt situation in the early 2000s and late 90s, they had sold many of their IPs to other companies. They didn't have any other IPs to go to that had the stature that the Avengers had. They couldn't go with Fantastic Four. They couldn't go with Spider-Man. They couldn't go with X-Men. All right. So it was Iron Man. It was the only IP group IP left was the Avengers. And if you're going to tell the founding story of the Avengers, you start with the founding members of the Avengers. You started with Iron Man. You went to Thor. Captain America wasn't one, but he was close enough 4 issues down the line. So it's not like they were, woke up in the middle of the night and said, I have a genius plan. Granted, they executed it very well. But they started with the only major IPs they had left, and they basically told the story that the comic books did. So, yeah, you can't do what they've done. You just can't. And I heard all these people are saying, well, not everything's about Superman and Batman. If you don't want to go out of business and you're running a comic book centric studio, it is. It better start with those guys. It better include those guys. And those guys better be in the neighborhood if you're going to try to pull off a C-lister. If you're going to put a guy in a cape with anything but an S on his chest, you better have that guy with that S on his chest somewhere around. All right. If you're going to put a guy with a whole bunch of gizmos and call himself Blue Beetle, great. There better be a guy with a bat on his chest somewhere around on the schedule. If you're going to put Blue Beetle out in August, Batman better be coming out in October or before then. Otherwise, what reason do we have, no matter how good Blue Beetle is, to know that it's not going to go the same fate as Black Adam and the Shazam movies did? And Black Adam had a global superstar in it. So until you fix this, it's like a fungus. The stuff that the Hamada regime did, the stuff that the Tishihara and I know I'm butchering his name, but I don't care. Tishihara and Emrak and Sarnoff, the things that they did are still giving off fungus. They're still giving off spores, and other movies are paying for them. And ultimately, we got 2 years for that fungus just to sit there. And in 2 years, instead of, being excited about what's coming, we're either going to have apathy or you're just going to hate it, just to hate it, which I think is sad, just to hate something. But like I said, human emotion is what it is. There's a cause and effect. When you handle things the way they've handled things, this is the effect you get. What's happening with DC Films didn't just come out of nowhere. And you just can't blame the fans on it. The fans were the consumers. All the fans wanted to do is give you their money. You didn't want to take it. So that's stop blaming the fans. I know YouTube is there's a lot of YouTubers that just make their YouTube careers off of blaming the fans while completely giving the corporate structure a pass, which is kind of sad. All right, Faith William versus Faith. All right. Oh, if the Blue Beetle has a generic superhero, looks like Shazam and Black Adam had generic humor, bright colors, low carrier sweepstakes, it'll bomb. Well, like I said, I'm going to give it the same criteria that I said months ago and years ago when I heard that these movies were coming out. The biggest hurdle that they have is that they were Shazam and Black Adam. That's the biggest hurdle, and you weren't going to overcome that. All right, Blue Beetle, same thing. And I'm not saying that Blue Beetle cannot overcome that hurdle, but it's the biggest hurdle it has. Just nobody knows who it is. And they haven't done anything in the last 5 or 6 years to make you care about it. And like somebody told me the other day, by that notion, well, you couldn't start MCU in 2008. Well, first of all, DC is not the MCU. And not just because of the success that each of them have or hadn't. You approach DC like DC, or you're going to fail. And that's where all the failures have come. All right. When Marvel has done things, when Marvel, they took the time they had no choice but to build up whatever you want to say about Iron Man, Thor, and all these. You want to call them B-listers? You're crazy. But let's go with that argument that they're B-listers. Out of necessity, they spent the time to build them up, and they didn't blink at the point of adversity because they had nowhere else to go with their characters. So they built up Iron Man. They built up Captain America. They built everybody knew Captain America was. They built up Thor. They built up the derivative characters around that, and they kept going. You were fed a consistent diet of those characters, even if you thought they were B-listers at first. They kept them going. But DC doesn't have to do that. There is no such thing as a B-lister in DC's Trinity. You all know who Superman is. You all know who Batman is. You all know who Wonder Woman is. Most people know who the Flash is. Most people know Aquaman and Green Lantern are. They didn't have to go through what Marvel did. So you can't apply Marvel being forced, basically, to start with the characters that they had because they didn't own the rights to the other ones and what DC had at their disposal. DC had much more at their disposal. They just decided not to use it. What up, William? How you doing? That's Tucker Aguilar. I don't see Gunn's reboot will work at all. I don't think he's doing a reboot, but if he only looks good to some people because the model was such, yeah. Well, yeah, and that is true because the old regime was a disaster. That anything was better than that. Even on the worst day of this new regime, it's better than that disaster. So you are right there. I just mean he never left Gotham before. That desert fight is obviously out of Gotham, and there's superhumans in this world for the first time. I get that Burton wasn't grounded like Batman. I get what you're saying. It's not a singular universe like it was before. By grounded, I guess you're saying because it wasn't interactive with other, shared universe. That's fine. That's fair. Well, Gunn did hire himself as director for Superman, as mentioned by the trades. Well, that once you have Gunn in there and he's going to embark on this, there's no other person that should be directing Superman or writing Superman or producing Superman. That's all on him. If you're going to be the man, then he's got to be the man, and this is the most important project that he's going to do. Why you would be derelict in your duty if you handed that on to someone else. All right, but if Pattinson is grounded and separate from metahuman stuff, the other Batman, whether it's Batfleck, Keaton, or the new DCU Batman, should the jail Batman, he should be the jail world-saving version. Yeah, listen. There's a market for all of these. There's a market for the Pattinson, There's a market for the Batfleck. There's a market for different Batman. People say that it'll be too confusing. Yeah, if you're a fucking dummy, it's not that hard, and we have 85 years of these characters. My dad's preference of Batman is going to be different than mine. My preference is going to be different than the millennials. You got people whose first introduction to Batman was a damn cartoon. Their version of Batman is going to be different. So you have, if you're going to make the money, then you should be willing to cater to multiple demographics and multiple generations. Otherwise, you're always going to piss somebody off anyway, so you're always going to lose. All right, Zack Justice League 2 and 3, or Batman versus Dresser in graphic novel form would sell like crazy. I think the Justice League 2 and 3 would sell like crazy. Especially if you got a whole bunch of people, and man, can you imagine the variant covers for that? The variant cover for Zack Snyder's Justice League, the DC, the Justice League cover that came out that had nothing to do with the comic that was inside, sold like hotcakes. So can you imagine Jim Lee doing covers, Todd McFarlane doing covers, Will Sportation? I mean, all these guys, doing covers, variants, and each one doing different artwork. I mean, you would, Mike Deodato. There's a lot of that, and I think that would help reinvigorate the comic book industry. So, give me an ending. That's all I ask. Let's see. All right, Michael K. William, I think you underestimate how much people didn't like Zach's vision of these characters and happy he left for Netflix. No, I think that remember what I always say: math is undefeated. Math is not going to lose to an opinion like this. That is your opinion, and you're welcome to it, Michael K. You have the right to it. $870 million, $1 million. That's unrefutable. All right. The last Superman movie that hit the screen before Man of Steel didn't even break 400 million, or barely broke 400 million. All right. It did poorly enough to where they decided to scrap that whole thing. The very next Superman movie that came out made almost twice that much, $678 million. The next movie after it made $871 million. Now, if you just apply common sense, make your minor adjustments, but stick to your plan, you will probably get to where you wanted to go. Because Aquaman and Wonder Woman those are Zack Snyder characters. Zack Snyder helped write that movie. Zack Snyder was an executive producer. He casted Gal Gadot. So that's a Snyder movie. It did well. People liked her. Aquaman pulled in $1 billion. Aquaman was on the natural trajectory that a good Justice League would have put him on. So I don't know who you're talking about when you say how many people didn't like Zack's vision. Whenever you do DC films anywhere, no matter who's doing them, it's going to be the same thing with James Gunn is going to get the exact same divisive heat that Zack Snyder did. And you know what? James Gunn should go forward. Because when you're dealing with IPs that are 8.5 decades old, you are always going to have one half of the fandom that doesn't want it or like it, and the other half that does. You go with the math. All right. When you have two sides, you pick the winning one. You pick the one that's giving you the money. You do what you can to move towards the people who don't like it, but you have to come to the reality that math is undefeated. All right. Your seeds are growing, and the people who continue to give you their money and escalating levels, that's who you stick with. The people who made all your money from these movies, that you say, didn't like them, they were there. They're still there. All right. They are still buying the physical media. They're still supporting all these movies everywhere they go. I think a lot of people underestimate the actual fan base that does like Snyder's movies. I think the people who don't like them are the louder ones, because most people, when you like something, you watch it and you enjoy it. But the other half, if you don't like something, the human tendency is to shit in your diaper and let everybody around you know that you don't like something. So the perception that, there wasn't a lot of people that liked Snyder's content, I think comes from the fact that the people who didn't like it ran their mouths louder than the people who enjoyed it. And as far as him being happy and doing his own IP, great, wonderful. That doesn't mean I have to stop wanting him to be a part of what I was led into. He can go anywhere he wants to and do IP. And by the way, guys, if you're not into Rebel Moon, and you don't care about Rebel Moon, I do, for a whole lot of reasons. It is not a federal crime. And no one should try to make you feel like crap if that's not what you're into. If you bought into what Zack Snyder is as far as in your eyes, because you are a comic book nerd and that's how you want your movies to be, there's nothing wrong with you. People say, well, if you're not supporting Rebel Moon, then you're this and you're that. Go fuck yourself. Each individual has an individual decision on what they're going to support and why they're going to support it. Me, personally, I like Activision, period. And I like the influence that are going into Rebel Moon. I'm going to support it. I'm going to recommend that other people support it. But I'll be damned if I sit back and watch people knock on other people because they may or may not be interested in Rebel Moon. Just because it's done by the same director of the comic book movies that they like. If you're a comic book movie fan and that is what you want, no, that's what you want. That is your preference. I'm an overall science fiction horror geek. Everything I've seen from Rebel Moon is got me drawn in. I'm in. I am in. I'm ready to go pay to see it anywhere it goes. I'm ready to buy the t-shirts. I'm ready to buy the toys. And it's influenced by Kurosawa, in my opinion, that's from what I can see, which is a whole nother inspiration. But if you don't, I keep hearing people, say, well, why aren't you supporting him on Netflix? If that's not your jam, then you don't have to. If the story that Rebel Moon looks like isn't the kind of story that you're into, you don't have to. I'm going to. But I'm not going to knock somebody else and say to them, well, you only care about his comic book stuff. So that's maybe the first movies you ever saw from Zack Snyder were comic book movies. Maybe the first 3 or 4 movies that you saw from him were comic book movies. And that's your preference. So I would say 100% Rebel Moon looks awesome. I liked Army of the Dead. I liked all the stuff that went around it. But that doesn't mean that everybody who doesn't like the rest of his content because they are geared towards comic book stuff is some kind of asshole. And I keep hearing that, and not you, Michael, but I keep hearing that over and over in some of the streams I listen to, and it aggravates the hell out of me. I have made the personal decision that I'm going to support it because I support the vision, just like Denis Villeneuve, Ridley Scott, Michael Mann, any other visionary director. I'm there for you as long as you continue to produce high value content like he has. But there are people that I know that are strictly comic book movie fans. That's all the movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. So them not supporting it, they shouldn't be taking daggers in chat rooms and YouTube streams because of that. That's bullshit. All right, so fourth 100 almost reminds me of Odell Rules, Billy Madison. I hate that movie. Let's see. All right, Blue Beetle isn't a big budget. It's just going to bring Cobra Kai on. It just had to bring the Cobra Kai on. Yeah, I mean, it's what, $75 million movie? I just hope that, when it's low budget and it's supposed to be a movie about a high-tech guy like that, you get what you pay for it, but here you go. Don't forget William George Lopez spilled the beans that Batman is in Blue Beetle, so there will be a guy and a bat on his chest. Do you know what they need to do? If that's the case, I don't know if that's 100% the case. I know he said that. Then you need to be knowing that now. I need to that Blue Beetle scarab. You need to put a bat over across that. You need to be letting everybody know, and if he's in there significantly, depending on what Blue Beetle we're talking or what Batman we're talking about, then that needs to be in the trailer. Batman sells. All right, and you give yourself a chance with Batman. Sorry, William, I got to be one of those dummies. General audience did not know who Iron Man was, but Favreau bought that fire, and people felt the heat, and the movie did well. I think you're wrong. No, I'm not. A lot of people knew, more people than you guys are giving credit for knew who Iron Man was. But even then, you forgot about my sub point. It didn't matter. It didn't matter because unlike the Hamada and the Tishihara and the Imrex and the Johns and the other goons, Favreau and Feige and all those guys weren't going to listen to people shitting in their diapers about their movies on the outset. They knew what they were going to do. They were employed by people who knew what they were going to do and had faith in the people that they hired. How about that? All right. More people knew who the hell Iron Man and Thor and Captain America was. And it didn't matter to them because they had their plan and they were going forward with their plan regardless. For one, they didn't have other characters. And B, they believed in what they were doing. That's the most significant difference between what DC was doing in 2013 and what Marvel was doing in 2008. All right. They had their circumstances and they built on those circumstances. They had nothing to lose. All right. There was no expectations for no one ever played Iron Man on the big screen. All right. No one had ever played Thor on a theatrical big screen. Same thing with Captain America. You had that shitty movie in the 90s. So there was no comparisons to anything. You weren't going to have the belly aching people in their cribs saying, "Well, that's not my Superman. He needs to be hopeful and smiling and picking up cats and dogs and kissing librarians and doing all that other crap. That's not my Superman." You didn't have that with Marvel because there was no other versions of those characters. So that's another situation altogether. When Iron Man didn't pull in $1 billion or whatever, they made more movies. All right. They didn't make these movies tracing $1 billion. They had their plan and they kept to their plan. That's the main point there. Whether 1 million, 20 million people knew who Iron Man was or 3 or 4 people knew who it was. When you have faith in your plan, that's your strong point. DC did not have faith in what they were doing. All right. You had unqualified people countermanding people whose job it was to make these movies. And we ended up what we ended up with. And guess what? It's a gift that keeps on giving. Because now look what we have now. This is the end product of years. Shazam, Black Adam, Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn, all these movies that didn't make any money. It's a byproduct of how you treated your product. If you didn't have faith in your product, why should the fans have faith in their product? Marvel had faith in their product. Fanboys whined and shit all over their pants the first 4 or 5 years of that. They didn't listen to that. Thor Dark World came out, it blew. They didn't listen to that. They kept going. They made minor adjustments. But they didn't do a wholesale destruction of their product because a group of fans said, this isn't blah, blah, blah. And that's what DC should have done. DC blew up their entire plan based on a good majority of people who were never going to even see their movies. So, yeah. It's a wrap for Fury of the Gods with John Wick 4 coming out this weekend and with good word of mouth. You know what? Everybody who I know that saw Fury of the Gods gave a good word of mouth. Maybe you could have strong weekends. I think John Wick has spent more time building its brand than DC has with the movies that they put out. We're on chapter 4 with a consistent linear storyline that has gone all through these movies. They've done the work to earn the money. These guys haven't. Michael K, I guarantee you the pro-Snyder and anti-Snyder fans cancel each other out. Most likely. And even amongst that, none of us are really the majority. The difference between Snyder and these 3 current DC movies is Snyder made films, not comic book movies. 100%. I believe Affleck wants to continue in the film line, not the comic book movie. Yeah. I can't disagree there. RDJ was perfect casting, and Lightning in a Bottle was the perfect time and somebody in his to embody Tony Stark. Yeah, and like I said, unlike with Henry Cavill, you didn't have people, pissing and moaning about other Supermen because there was no other Iron Man. Marvel got Spider-Man in the MCU the moment he was available. He actually wasn't. Well, he wasn't really available. They just made a drug deal with what's her face, Pascal, and that was well into the MCU becoming a phenomenon. That tells you right there that Marvel knew that they needed their heaviest hitter. But even still, Jr. Avengers came out in 2012, and the Avengers movies before Spider-Man came out all pulled in lots of money. They've always wanted him back, but they did just fine. I mean, he didn't show up until Captain America Civil War, the third leg in a Captain America trilogy. So they were doing fine without him. I think they always wanted him back. It may be important, but but they were able to do it with what they had, which I thought was kind of amazing. But that's what happens when you believe in your product. Seems like WB purposely puts his name in between Scream 6 and John Wick 4. They just want to roll them up and get them done and move on to Guns Vision ASAP. I don't know about that one because you still spent money marketing this movie. You would still want to see a return on it, but then why even release it? You were better off not even releasing them and just putting them on HBO Max, because by the time you get done with it, you may end up losing money on Shazam. Not a lot, but it's not going to be great. Let's see. All right, the majority of I think the majority of DC fans are general audience people who just will go see a DC movie. The majority of the hardcore fans, I think, is roughly around us. But I think I don't think we're monolithic like that. I think there's just a lot. I know a lot of people who watch and enjoy all of Snyder's movies, but they're not on the internet or anything like that. They just enjoy the movies, and then that's what they want to see more of. And when that is absent, they just stay away. I think it's pretty telling that Affleck specifically said he's not interested in Gunn's DCU. He didn't say he was done with superhero stuff. You know what? And like I said, people say stuff in the moment, and at that moment, they are telling 100% truth. But things change, situations change, and words change. Martin, I didn't really know RJD at the time of watching Iron Man trailer. Just hooked me. Shazam and Black Adam should have took notes. No, Shazam and Black Adam should have took notes by not existing. All right, and Robert Downer Jr. was still very well known. I mean, even with his issues, Chaplin. I mean, you're talking about an Academy Award nominated actor who had been in prior to his issues, been in some big hits, and he was available because of his issues, but people still knew who he was, and But once you started out, you also started out, like I said, in an era. I feel sorry for the next person who plays Iron Man. That's where you're going to have the issues. Next person who plays Captain America or Steve Rogers. That's where you're going to have the issues. But no, Shazam and Black Adam, there were no notes to take from what Iron Man did because their characters didn't need movies. Their characters didn't justify movies. If you're telling a founding Avengers story, then you must go with the founding Avengers. Iron Man is the founding Avenger. So the only note that they should take was the fact that, okay, you stick with your heavy guns. You stick with the heaviest guns that you have at your disposal. Marvel dealt the heaviest ammo that they had, the most high-tier characters that they had under their control. DC, by making Shazam and Black Adam, did not. So the only notes to be taken there is don't make movies. And when you say B-lister or C-lister, within your company, within the characters that you have at your disposal, Iron Man would have been is a A-lister within the characters that they have at their disposal at the time. With the characters that DC had at their disposal at the time, Shazam and Black Adam aren't even on the list. They're not getting in the club. It's like WB owns sports cars and luxury vehicles in their garage, and they choose to keep driving the Kia Soul. Yep. Well, because they did something stupid with the Ferrari, and they don't want to go back to it. So, all right, let's see. All right, let's see. Please, where's the deal there? Yeah, there's just so much diversity in DC. I just want, and the sad part about it with Gunn is, I think he is the guy. I think he is the guy to pull this off. If I can't have Zack Snyder. But the road to getting to anything he's going to do is just so damaged. Like I always say, wrecked runways lead to crash planes, and we got a wrecked runway here. So I hope it gets fixed to the point where, because it's just going to waste a lot of people's time. All right. I'm going to wrap this up because we've gone about over an hour, and I'm starting to answer the same questions here. I hear people saying they won't continue the Snyderverse just because the fandom is being negative. I can't believe that. If anything, they should want to appease them if they're really important. If that's the reason why they're not continuing it, then you deserve to be fired from your position. If that is the reason why you are not continuing any particular storyline, any particular branch, I don't care if it's Star Wars, Star Trek, DC, Marvel, if that is the reason why you are not proceeding with something, then you deserve to be terminated. You deserve to be locked out of your office, and you deserve to be replaced. That is not a business reason to not do or do anything. You don't do anything like this for any specific fan base. You don't not do anything for any specific fan base, good or bad. You do things for the cohesiveness of your product. That is first and foremost. If you are going to not do something because your feelings got hurt by some fan, then you need to get into a different line of work that does not deal with the public and does not deal with fans. Because when you're dealing in entertainment, that's part of the gig. And while I do not condone some of the stupid stuff that certain people do and going too far, that is not, you're a grown man and grown woman if you're in that corner office. You need to be able to take that and move on. All right. You need to be able to look past the diaper crapper and look to the majority of us who have just wanted to give you our money. So, yeah, I don't think that there's anybody, if you're running a studio or anything that has to do with dollars events, you probably should have enough data in front of you besides that to be able to make an informed decision going forward. And if you're making them based on some portion of the fandom being negative, all right, there's an example out there of a franchise that paid a heavy price for being that stupid, and that's Star Trek. All right, old Trek fan did nothing but shit on anything new Trek for 12 years, and it kept Star Trek off of any type of TV. All right, it wasn't until Star Trek Discovery and old Trek fans shit on that show. It wasn't, and it was successful anyway. It wasn't until Star Trek Discovery, with all of its flaws, broke through and was successful that we were able to get several Star Trek shows greenlit. Strange New Worlds. I keep seeing people use Strange New Worlds as a weapon against Discovery. Like, this is what Trek really is. And I'm like, you're a Nimrod, or because without Star Trek Discovery, you have no Strange New Worlds. You have no Star Trek Picard. You have no Section 31. You have no Lower Decks. You don't have any of those things unless Star Trek Discovery breaks through. But for 12 years, from 2004 to 2016, 2005, 2016, 2017, actually, you had people, everybody who wanted to look at the DC, the Star Trek product just didn't want to deal with the crazy fans. So the moderate fans, the majority of us who enjoy Star Trek, were left without Star Trek for 12 years, and it set back the franchise. Now, we're fixing stuff now, but you don't make stupid-ass decisions based on a certain particular part of fandom, one way or the other. You don't make, I want to see all the Snyder stuff, but you don't make your decision based on just me. You make it based on what the general audience is going to do, because they are the backbone of any endeavor that you're going to do. So I hope this is not true, but you know what? I've seen dumber things. All right, you can deny all fandoms with a multiverse story. You will never unite them necessarily, but you will get the most out of your fandom if you do these things. And be honest with you, most people are full of crap when they say, "Oh, I'm never going to watch that Batman. This is mine. I'm going to watch this one right here." You're going to watch it, all right? You know, I watched Trek that I said I wasn't going to watch. I watched it because it's on, and I'm a Trek fan. And I once I ran through my preferred Trek, then I want to watch. You know, okay, this is interesting. So the people who didn't watch the Batman initially, it's on HBO Max. They'll watch it. So yeah. All right. If WB had let Snyder finish his run at the time, none of this, yeah, we would be done. We will be done, and then you could have credibly entered anything you wanted to because you would have, you wouldn't have left the trash on the floor. But they paid the price, man. All right. Do you also agree with me that what really matters is what comes out and is around for history? The quotes about what's happening to keep us riled up, etc., is way less important than the wrong. It is. It is. But everybody, these guys who make their money off of clicks, they're exploiting this. This is the news for them. Like I said, I have crumbs for subscribers because I don't my headlines and thumbnails aren't the bullshit ones that get people pissed off and get people coming in to clash with me. I mean, and then that's what a lot of these outlets are doing right now. All right. Yeah, he's seen everything, man. He was in an orange jumpsuit in a courtroom in front of a judge. The guy woke up in somebody else's bed, broke into a house after drugs and drunk. He was so drunk he didn't know where he was. People know who Robert Downey, for better or worse, they know who Robert Downey Jr. is. And you also had Tropic Thunder, which is he got nominated for an Oscar for that one. So he wasn't some little star that no one knew. All right, Darth Scipio, William Ben Affleck is over 50-year-old and doesn't care about superhero films. He's too old. Simple as that. He's not. He's 50 years old, but he's not normal 50 years old. He's movie star 50 years old. Like I said, I mean, I don't know where that comment is supposed to mean. I think if he had a better situation, it wouldn't matter if he was 80. He would have continued. All right, let's see. I'm about to wrap. I'm skipping around now. Because I'm starting to get tired. By the way, question: if Flash makes $1 billion, how do you think this will affect DC moving forward? If what I say is true and math is undefeated, then that math would at the very least influence what goes forward. If I can't see anybody worth their job ignoring $1 billion movie if people connect to it in that way. So, all right, guys, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up. I pretty much been on every night this week. I think I haven't skipped a night, so we're on Wednesday. So I will definitely be on tomorrow, and we'll definitely be on Friday, and we have our OverNighter Saturday. Remember, guys, I'm gonna get with some people that help me out because I've never held a charity event before, but I will be doing an OverNighter on Sunday and Saturday and Sunday. So there's a good chance that the charity stream that I'm going to be doing is going to take place over the course of the weekend. So you guys have time. So I'm going to get with people who have ran these things before to get their help. And like I said, my goal is to raise a total of $2,000 for not just mental health and the AFS, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, but I want to make money and get money into the hands of people who provide free and good quality mental health, because I keep hearing so many times. There's a YouTuber I listen to all the time. Her name is Roxy Stryer. She's never going to watch this show, but she was upfront about her mental health issues and trying to find the right person and how hard it was. And I'm like, that's devastating. You're already trying to fix issues and you have to go ahead and try to fix the healthcare system. You don't need to do that. That's time. And before we get to the point where AFSP is a factor, I would like to attack the problem somewhere here as well. Let's attack it from both angles. So I want to try to raise $2,000 over the weekend, over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I want to make the links, and the links go directly to those charities. So they don't go to me. I'm not going to be, on a waterbed, flipping your dollar bills around or $100 bills around. It's whatever we do is going to go directly to those charities. So I put on, some things maybe to entice you. If we break that goal, I have a Wonder Woman costume. I'll wear it on the stream, or I will suffer through watching a group watch with Howard the Duck, one of the worst, if not the worst movie ever made. Definitely the worst comic movie ever made. I will endure that pain if we can raise money for a good cause. All right, guys. If I didn't get to your questions tonight, go ahead and feel free to bring them up again on tomorrow night's stream. But right now, my eyeballs are starting to dry up, and I'm still dealing with allergies, but not as bad as they've been. But we'll be back here tomorrow, so you can expect me around 11:45. I might even make the stream early so that you guys can just basically set your clocks by it. All right, guys, thank you once again for being the best part of this YouTube experiment of mine, and I will see you later on tonight. I almost hit the 30-second button. That's how tired I am.